So I thought my first slide, I will open up with why Kabir. So there are three reasons I think Kabir, his wisdom, his insights are very, very relevant, not only for poultry industry, but for any professional, or just keep the professional aside, for any human being. The first reason is, we always think that change happens from others to us. So whenever it comes to change, we think that society should change first, rules should change first, our colleagues should change first, our boss should change first, our subordinates should change first. And once everything is changed, then probably we'll think whether we need to change or not. If you see Kabir, and if you go through his literature, he says change begins with you. So you have no right to ask others to change unless you don't work hardly on changing yourself. I think in today's world, where we are on social media everywhere and we are always sharing advices with others, Kabir's wisdom is highly useful, that change yourself. And whenever we ask others to change, it's actually an excuse not to change ourselves. So we are constantly running away from changing ourselves. So that's the first reason I think Kabir's message is highly relevant in today's world. Second thing is, what would you choose? Would you choose gold or a philosopher's stone? Obviously philosopher's stone, because it can convert any piece of metal into gold. In same way, Kabir and his words, they are transformational. See, there are many saints who have many beautiful lines, many words of wisdom, but the transformational value, so there is Hindi word called chot. It, hurts you somewhere. When you read Kabir's Doha, they actually hurt you and you feel like, oh, I should do something about this. So that is the second reason. And third and most interesting reason, like all of us, Kabir was a professional. So Kabir didn't move away from the worldly affairs. He was a weaver. He used to work every day. He used to weave every day. He used to sell every day, and he used to earn every day. So he knows what it means to work in a society, what it means to be an entrepreneur. He was an entrepreneur, I would say. And that's why when we go through his dohas and his couplets, you will see that his words are very practical. They are not like, very idealistic or all that. They are very practical, they are very actionable. And that's why I thought, let us go with Kabir. Now, as Shivani mentioned, we have read so many of Kabir's dohas. I think there are more than 500 of his dohas. But what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take out 3 core points from all the dohas. See, what happens is when we listen to 20 things, we forget all the 20. Very honestly, I don't want to do that. So I have shortlisted 3 things. So if you are able to, go through those 3 things, I think my work is done. So I have taken A, B, C of Kabir. The most essential of Kabir. The first thing is love. Today someone said, that the most important nutritional component for poultry is calcium. With same authority, I say, that what we need today to transform anything, from our relationships to our businesses is love. But it's very important to understand what love means from Kabir's perspective. So I have some couplets for you. Kabir says, Pothi padhi padhi jag mua, Pandit bhaya na koe, dhai akhar prem ka, padhe so pandit hoye. So he's saying that apart from scriptures and information, we need experience of love. That's what we miss. And he defines love in a second couplet of his. He says, Jab tu tha, tab main nahi, jab main, tab tu nahi. Prema gali ati sakari, ta mein do na samai. In a very simple language, he says that the lane of love is so narrow that 2 people cannot exist in it. So if your ego is present, the love is not there. So from Kabir's perspective, love is essentially absence of ego. And if you see, we are doing everything out of our ego and out of our conditioning. So there was one interesting research where scientists and scholars asked different people to write about what is their definition of paradise, how the paradise would be. And they got funny answers, So the one kid who had migraine, he said paradise is a place where no one has migraine. So if you see our definitions, our perspectives, everything is colored by our experiences and our ego. And Kabir says that's what is stopping us from connecting with people, from understanding people. And in corporate world, if you see, many companies are trying to break this ego. So if you go to Nike's office in the United States, you will see that from the entry point to the office, many people go running because their product is for runners. So unless the product engineer doesn't run, how can he make the best product? So basically, love is keeping your convenience, your opinions aside, and feeling for feeling for the end user in our case, that what is it that my end user needs? If you go to any good designing firm, whenever they design product for blinds, they make their engineers wear blindfolds. It's actually a way of introducing that same experience. And that's what Kabir is calling love. Keep your ego aside and just familiarize yourself with whosoever you are interacting with or developing your product for. So this is the first principle of Kabir, which I find is very core and very essential. Second is awareness. If you see, normally all of us, we sleep for some time of the day and then we are awake. What Kabir says is that whatever we call awareness, that's also sleep. So he says we talk with people in sleep, we interact with people in sleep, we do business in sleep, everything. And it's very interesting that what he's really trying to say out of this. So he's saying that Neend nishani maut ki. So he's saying that we are all dead, And I have a very beautiful example. When we were coming from the airport yesterday, there was huge traffic jam. And I saw a little 2-year-old kid in the next car. And he was just looking at the lights outside. And his eyes were full of wonder, like he was just looking at it. And at that point, I realized that, okay, I am also looking, but I am not looking as intently as that kid. And what we do is, when I meet a person for the first time, I start judging that person from his clothes, from his accent, from his language, whatever it is. Then I make the image of that person. Similarly, that person also makes an image of me. And after 2-3 interactions, the two images are talking to each other. The people are now out of it. When we see sunset, we go abroad and, oh, beautiful sunset. On the first day, we'll see it. Second day onwards, we just compare it with what we saw yesterday. Ne kal acha tha. So what Kabir is saying is that you have to drop this habit aside. You have to be aware all the time, every time. This is the second important point. So he says, Raat gawai soe ke, divas gawaya khaye, hira janm anmol tha, kodi badle jaye. So basically he says that you spend your night sleeping, in the daytime, you are again in sleep, running behind all the activities, without being aware. And the precious life, it's so beautiful life that you have got, you just waste it. So this is second. First was love. Second is awareness. And third is look within. See, we are always told to look outside for answers. If you don't get anything, look out. See what others are doing. Kabir's way is exactly reverse. He says, if you are in problem, look inside. The solution is inside you. So there is a beautiful story. A seed once went out and it saw so many huge trees surrounding. So first was a huge banyan tree. So the seed went to it and asked, you are so huge. How can I be like you? So the tree said, oh, you have to be very strong, you have to be strength, you have to be a good seed and this and that. It went to next tree. It got a similar answer. Finally, one tree said, okay, if you have to become like me, just go in the soil. And you will have to implode. You will have to break unto yourself and then only you will emerge, you will explode as I am. And Kabir is saying same thing. So many of his dohas, they have this line, Sahib hai ghat mahi. Ghat is basically you, like we, our bodies are the ghat. And he's saying Sahib is God or and whatever we call. So he's saying whatever you want, it's inside you. From corporate perspective also, this is very true. The only way of achieving something is looking within first. And then, of course, you are free to look outside. And I have many good examples for this. So a friend of mine, he runs a company which operates on the principle of theory of constraints. So they work with large manufacturing companies in India, and they help them to increase their production. So this friend of mine got a new client, probably the largest automobile company in India. He went there and their MD and the plant head, everyone was present for the meeting. And the plant, he was insecure, the plant head, that someone is coming from outside to teach me. So he was like, our plant is running at full capacity. There is no scope for improvement. So this friend of mine was, okay, give me monthly production chart. So on some day it was more, on some day it was less. So he's saying, then why it's not same on every day? He said, it doesn't end here. Give me hourly chart. Then why there are hourly fluctuations? And this friend ended up increasing their production by 2.5 times. So the way is to look within. There is so much scope to improve inside. But as I said earlier, we look outside to avoid looking inside. Because we know, the things are not well inside. We know, there are many things that we are deliberately not improving, we are not deliberately thinking upon. And that's why we keep looking outside. So Kabir says, look within. And what happens when we look within? He says, Man aisa nirmal bhaya, jaise Ganga neer, piche piche hari fire kahat Kabir Kabir. So he's saying that once you look within, you become so pure that God will come behind you. You don't have to go behind him. And I think same thing is with companies. Companies run behind customers. Buy our products, buy our products. He's saying work on yourself and customers will run to you. On the other hand, Microsoft is now evolving. Why? Because they are going deep. So if you see, you will see such cases in your industry also. Those who embraced new things, those who took the efforts to come up with new things, they always benefited. And I have a very interesting case study for you. It's called Supreme. It's a plastic manufacturing company. So when I was a kid, all the plastic chairs in my house were Supreme. And just few months ago, I wanted to buy a gift for my niece, which was in my mother tongue, in Marathi. There are many English things available and all that. So I said, I will give her something in my mother tongue. I got foam blocks from Supreme, which were in Marathi. So there is no connection, company manufacturing plastic now has diversified into toys and educational material. So the thing is the same thing, that you have to be creative, you have to find the new opportunities. The raw material is same. That's the connect. You have to go deep, you have to find out what people are looking for, what they want to buy, and you have to just start serving to them. Kabir has some very important and beautiful message about communication. He says, ऐसी वाणी बोलिए मन का आपा खोए और ही शीतल करे आप भी शीतल होए. See, what happens is whenever we are doing critical communication, the room temperature goes up, right? Then there are flashes in between and then there are conflicts and all that. And Kabir says that this happens because we bring our ego in the communication. So he says if that ego is out, you can communicate any critical message, any difficult feedback without having any issues. This one is very, very interesting. See, all of us know what to do when the times are difficult, right? There are not many options. We have to do cost cutting, we have to do this, we have to do that. There are not many options. But very few of us know what to do when everything is going fine, isn't it? When everything is working seamlessly, what to do? And I have a very good example. The Google, the search engine that we use every day, they roll out more than 100 updates every day. More than 100. Why do they need to do this? They are already on the top there. They have like above 50% of the market share, everything in their favor. But still, they know, that even if you are on the top, even when everything is going fine, you still have to, keep doing better, improving yourself. And that is the only way of remaining on the top. And Kabir has said same thing. He says, Sukha mein sumiran sab kare. Now, his words have a religious touch. So he says, Sukha mein sumiran sab kare, dukh mein kare na koe. Jo sukha mein sumiran kare, to dukh kaye ko hoye. So he says, we remember God only when we are sad or when there is some problem. When everything is going fine, we never go to the temple or we never chant or whatever it is. So what Kabir is saying is that we focus on something or we take things seriously only when something goes wrong. And we are very casual when everything is going fine. And he says this attitude we need to change. So the keynote address that we had today, we discussed a lot about new startups and millennials. I missed that slot by hardly 4 or 5 years so that I can relate with millennials. Kabir says, Tinka kabahu na nindiye. What is a tinka? Tinka is a very fine piece of straw, rice straw, or any wood. He says, Tinka kabahu na nindiye, jo pav tale hue, which is under your feet. Kabahu ud akhan pade, peer gahari hoy. So the piece of wood, it's very tiny, it's at your feet, never neglect it. But being light gives it ability to fly with even gentlest of the breezes. It can just go up and it can hurt you. And we see so many examples of this happening. So I have listed Patanjali. I will give you an example. When I was working with a company almost 3 years ago, the company manufactured boilers. And we used to sell boilers to, process boilers to different companies. And we had a new product which was a very premium boiler, which was going in crores of rupees. So normally our salespeople, they were targeting big companies like Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Lay's, Cadbury, all these big shot companies. You won't believe the first order that we got was from Patanjali. So at that point I realized that these people are doing business very differently. But no one took them seriously at that time. And now you know where they are. Airbnb. There is a statement of Marriott CEO saying that, oh, they're just kids, we did not even think about them. But now Airbnb has more revenue than Marriott. So Kabir is saying never neglect. Never neglect anyone, howsoever small the company is. I consult with a company in Pune called Aeron Systems. It started by my friend. In 2008, their objective was to do aerial photography. Very fancy, for college pass-outs, that we will fly a drone and we will provide aerial imaging solutions. You won't believe what they do today. Today, it's the only company in Asia that manufactures inertial navigation systems, which goes on every tank, every plane, every fighter aircraft. Just a company started by a college pass-out. And they were neglected by many of the market players, saying, oh, it's such a core technology, you won't be able to develop it. In 3 years, they develop it, and now they are India's leading company. So we tend to neglect small companies, and this applies even to people within the company. Just because someone is at a different hierarchical level, we tend to neglect them. So Kabir says, never do that, For every person, give them proper attention, listen to them, understand them. In our business context, every company, try to understand what they're doing, what they can do, and that's helpful for you. Yes. So Kabir always talks about being patient. He says, Dhire dhire re mana, dhire sab kuch hoye, mali siche 100 ghada, ritu aaye phal hoye. So he's saying that be patient. Even if a gardener pours like 10 jugs of water, the plant is not going to bear the fruits immediately. It will wait for the season. And in our business scenario, many times it happens, that we work on some projects for so many years without getting any tangible output. We feel like, oh, should I continue this or not? But Kabir says, keep doing it. When you hit the right time, when the right season comes, it will blossom. So keep doing the good work. Okay, now comes strength. What we generally associate strength with is breaking others, right? If I can break other, I'm strong man. What Kabir says is that true strength is how can you reinvent yourself? How can you realign yourself? How can you reintegrate yourself? So he says, Sona, Sajjan, Sadhujan, Tute Jude Sau Bar, Durjan Kumbh Kumhar ke ek dhakka darar. So basically he says that a strong man is basically like gold. Even if it breaks, you can join it. You can heat it and you can join it. So it's never, damaged in that sense. And he says the weak person is actually pot of a potter. Just one blow and it's gone. And you will see so many examples of this happening in the companies. Companies reinventing themselves. Isn't it? There are so many companies we think, oh, they're just on the verge of going bankrupt. But they come up. Microsoft, for example, is a very good example, that everyone was thinking now they are dead. But they are coming up. So Kabir is saying that this is the real strength. And on a personal level also, many times we get hurt by something. So Kabir says your strength is in actually putting yourself together and keep continue doing what you are doing, the right thing. We had lots of learning in the day. So Kabir certainly has something to say about what is the right way of learning. He says, या दुनिया में आई के छांडी दे तू ऐट लेना है सो ले ले उठ जाती है पेट. He's talking about the dynamism of life. He's saying every day is different and every day you will get to learn something new. And learn, keep your ego aside and learn as much as you can. So when I was sitting here, many of you, out of your concern for me, said, ki, if it's boring for you, please, you can go to your room. Don't trouble yourself much. But I didn't feel like going because this is a new day in my life, where I'm getting access to the finest minds in this industry. And I don't know where this day will again come. So I was like, let me be here, it might be boring, I might not understand, I might understand just 2% of what's coming, but that 2% is also enough, right? There is so much to learn around, there is so much to absorb everywhere. And this point is linked to the awareness point, which Kabir said. We can learn only if we are aware. So today, when I was sitting, I learned a lot about how people design their slides. What colors do they use? What font sizes do they use? How people dress up, how people talk. So many things. We just have to, the world is full of learnings, if we are learning, like it's beyond our capacity. We are not using it even at its fragment, but. So that's what Kabir is saying, keep learning as much as you can. There is no end to it. Kabir was a very balanced saint. So if you see, there are saints who say, don't earn money. There were some saints who said, don't touch money. Money is evil. Kabir was not like that. He said, earn money. In one of his dohas, he says, he was a weaver. So he says, Nanha kato chitta de, mahage mol bikaye, grahak raja ram hai, aur ni raja. So what he's saying is that if you are a weaver, cut fine fabric and weave it finely and charge more for that. And do it with a feeling that your customer is Ram. So he's saying that look at your customer as your God and then weave the fabric for him. So he was not the one who will say, no, don't touch money, don't look at money. But on the other side, he was not the one who will say, fool your customer and make lots of money. So you will see a balanced approach. So he says, जो जल बढ़े नाव में, घर में बढ़े दाम, दोनों हाथ उलीचिए, यही सयानो काम. He gives a very nice analogy. He says that if you are traveling in a boat, in a river or a lake, and if water is coming into it, the only way to survive is throwing that out. In same way, he says it's true for everything. If you earn more knowledge, the only way to survive that burden of knowledge is sharing it with others. If you earn more profits, the only way to sustain that profit is investing back, into the industry, into your supply chain, into your vendor development, your team development, your CSR initiatives. There is so much to do. So he's saying that if you accumulate anything, it will get lost. And you will sink along with it. So never allow anything to go beyond the limit. Use it wisely. I have a very good example. I was fortunate to work with Forbes Marshall and Naushad Forbes, who happens to be one of the busiest persons, in India. Very interestingly, once every month, he used to invite 20 people to his house. He used to shortlist a passage for us 1 month in advance. He used to circulate that, and he used to have a discussion with us every month. And he is on the boards of so many companies and this and that. But he used to do that. He had this culture of sharing. So you will find many leaders, and they are great leaders because they are great at sharing. Sharing makes us great leaders. To conclude with, I have a doha which Kabir has for all of you, for all of us. Kabir says, तिल माही तेल है और चकमक में आग, तेरा साई तुझ में है, तू जाग सके तो जाग. So what he's saying is that the sesame seed has oil within. It doesn't have to go outside to search for oil. Same way, the flint stone has fire in itself, right? It's there in it. In same way, he's saying that the God is within you, or whatever you are trying to find, whatever you are trying to achieve, it's within you. The only thing is, you have to be aware. Jag sake to jag. Be as much aware as you can. So, with this, my screen has also turned red. I have exhausted all my time. But thank you so much. There are many, many more insights from Kabir. I have written a book on Kabir, which is available on Amazon under the name The Kabir Way, which has many more couplets and many more insights. A few copies are here also if you would like to buy. Thanks again, and all the best to all of you. Thank you.